Great to be here today, thank you. So I'm Jay Lewis from the Department of Commerce, leading the NSTC program. I'll talk a little bit more about what that is in a few minutes. Just want to start off by saying a couple of things at the get-go. I hope it's coming across from this panel that what we're doing in chips and what we're doing in semiconductors really is sort of across the government. So between ITA, NSF, I think if we had people from DOD, DOE here, there really are a lot of good conversations, coordination, partnering where that makes sense. So I hope that really is coming across. It really has been good to see in the last year that I have spent with the CHIPS team. Second, I love that we're doing this CHIPS meeting at a quantum event. These two communities really are very much intertwined. I will talk a little bit about sort of the big picture of the CHIPS Act. And sort of why semiconductors are important. But Heather just mentioned, that 5 years ago or so, I was at DARPA, sort of pre-CHIPS Act, pre-supply chain, catastrophe, and we had to go explain to people, talk to people about semiconductors, and they'd say, I kind of get what chips are, I just don't know why I care. Quantum's a little bit different. Everybody's like, oh, that's really cool, I really like it, I just don't know what it is. So slightly different challenges, but still trying to build, that partnership together where I think these two things really do lean on each other. One of the things that I think, in terms of just how closely connected these things are, I think most people here probably realize, you're not going to build a quantum computer without a supercomputer. Like the technologies, are very much, intertwined. I won't say entangled, but they, including a lot of innovations that are needed, really, that straddle the two. The other thing that I think is really shared between the CHIPS Act and the quantum community is the need for a strong culture of manufacturing and manufacturing ecosystem. There used to be a theory that used to kind of bug me, this leap ahead theory. Like, well, semiconductors are being made overseas now. That's okay. We'll leap ahead. We'll do quantum here. We'll lead in quantum. Without really explaining why manufacturing of quantum systems wasn't going to go follow very quickly as well. And so I think making sure that we do have sort of a robust culture, ecosystem, people, investment for manufacturing here is really going to help both communities a lot. And then the last is innovation. I mentioned earlier, the innovation that is needed for quantum systems really does straddle across both the quantum and traditional semiconductor boundaries. And so all of the programs, the people, and funding, are things where I think both communities really can leverage these things. So, I want to talk a little bit more now, I guess, about how CHIPS Act specifically is meant to impact some of these things. Oh, I was told I had to have a disclaimer. So we're not giving away money today. Hope everybody is good with that. So CHIPS Act really is kind of focused on these three principles, right? I think people in this room probably get this, right? Semiconductors really are foundational to our economic security, to our national security. Those two things, in many cases, mean a lot, similar things. And again, about the future of innovation. So, the CHIPS Act was really meant to support these three visions, these three goals. And one of the things that I really appreciated about the Act itself and the legislation itself is that it does this by investing both in manufacturing and R&D. I think that if you were to focus on one and not the other, you really hinder the ability to be successful. So I want to talk a little bit. I come from the R&D side. I'll talk more about that. But I want to first just talk about the manufacturing side. That really got up and running first, a little quicker. It's further along. And I think the success that we're seeing there, I think is much beyond what a lot of people expected. So there've been, of the $52 billion in the CHIPS Act, $39 billion goes towards manufacturing incentives. Over $30 billion of that has been announced across 26 different programs. What not everybody realizes is that in a typical project, the CHIPS incentive covers in the sort of 10 to 15% range of that project. So in those 26 projects, $30 billion of funding, it's unlocked over $300 billion in investment in semiconductor manufacturing in the US. It's across a range of parts of the ecosystem, so leading edge technologies, memory, legacy, mature nodes, analog mixed signal, defense technologies, substrates, packaging, advanced packaging. So it really is trying to address a broad cross-section of those supply chains. So it's good to see that up and running, but then, like I said, this is paired with the R&D side of the CHIPS Act. So that's where I sit. Within R&D, there are 4 primary programs. One is focused on advanced packaging. Again, I think there's a lot of foresight in the legislation to specifically call that out and make sure that that was going to be a priority. That's again another technology, a lot of overlap between more traditional semiconductors and what you need both in data center and mobile, but also quantum, which has a lot of unique packaging challenges. A second project is Advanced Manufacturing USA Institutes, focused on digital twin technology. This is one that specifically was chosen because it very much complements everything else we're doing across CHIPS R&D. So more and more technology developments are moving to digital domain, where you can lower the cost and accelerate time to manufacturing, which is a goal of all of ours. The third program is focused on some of the metrology work and metrology expertise that exists at NIST. NIST is kind of a little hidden gem within the US government. I think, again, at a quantum meeting, more people here would realize that than the rest of the world. But making sure that those scientists are focusing on things that are important to the semiconductor industry, and to make sure that those technologies are then being leveraged by the U.S. U.S. ecosystem and companies, is going to be key to continuing to make technology advances. And then saving the last and my favorite program, save my favorite program for last, is the NSTC. So National Semiconductor Technology Center is the 4th. And is by funding the largest, but it's also the broadest. And so, the NSTC is in many ways, I think, perfectly timed to fill a lot of gaps that exist in our sort of R&D ecosystem, in the sense that there really isn't a federal science funding program that is just purely focused on semiconductor technology for the sake of advanced commercial semiconductors, and making sure that we have the people, the resources, the infrastructure to continue to lead in hardware advances across a wide range of semiconductor technologies. So at the NSTC, we're trying to get this program going and make sure that we're sort of filling that gap that exists between sort of university basic research and high volume manufacturing, which is becoming harder and harder, more and more expensive to jump across that gap. So that's in a very quick snapshot what we're doing with the U.S. CHIPS Act. And to dive a little bit more into what we're doing in the NSTC program, I'm very fortunate to have Susan here to talk a little bit more about the NSTC.